You are now watching Believe. Do you believe?
We're back once again. Joshua Fisher, Alexander Desopoulos, Nikki Snacks Crider, and the Quan Cosby. This is the Horns Up Talkin Texas Podcast. So get your horns up, because here we go. Horns Up Talkin Texas Podcast. We have a special guest today, the man in charge, our CDC, Chris Del Conte, the athletic director for the University of Texas, is joining the boys. Mr. Del Conte, how you doing today?
Can't complain. All is well. Good to be with you, fellas.
Good to be with you too. Before we get going, our hearts and prayers go out to the families in Uvalde. We all saw that tragedy today, and obviously want to talk football, basketball, and Texas sports, but we'd be remiss if we didn't give, our thoughts and prayers at the beginning of the show to anyone there and all listening. But Texas football, Texas basketball, and of course, Texas athletics, the baseball team is headed to the Big 12 tournament. Our site's set in Omaha, hoping to make some noise there again. How has it been kind of being, quote unquote, the wartime president? What are some of the excitements and some of the difficulties you've had in kind of building Texas athletics back up to where it's supposed to be? In the eyes of the fans, the eyes of the donors, I'd say.
I mean, I think that you come here because it's the University of Texas, but there's so many things surrounding it, right? And I didn't have the pleasure of wearing the uniform, but I had the pleasure of looking in from the outside, looking in. When I was, when you think about the last 10 years, let's just go 2009, 10. We played for the national championship in 9, 10. We start to look at the Longhorn Network. Then all of a sudden you have A&M, Nebraska, Missouri, and Colorado leave. And then that kind of started this crazy odyssey that we've been on for a hot moment, and trying to figure out how we put the BBs back in the box. And at that point in time, we've had 3 presidents, 4 chancellors, 3 ADs, 4 football coaches, basketball coaches. It's been this real topsy-turvy time, when up until that point of 2010, we've had model of consistency. You had DeLoss Dodds been AD for 33 years. Mac was here 16 years. Ricky Barnes. You had, Augie. We had this great consistency. And then by the time you get to me hiring me in 2018, one of the things I looked at is how do we restore this? And my job when I first got hired here was, I'm the first AD to combine both men's and women. They were completely separate athletic programs. DeLoss Dodds was the men's AD over 8 sports. Chris Polanski was the women's AD over 11 sports, completely separate. So my task is trying to figure out how we put the T back in Texas, how we get some consistency, merging athletic programs, looking at our facilities were great in the 1990s, but the building in football was built for John Makovic. Renovated a little bit for Mac, but that building was actually built for Coach Royal way back in the day. So I had to look at an archaic footprint. We need to fix things. President Fembus wanted to build a new arena. All these crazy things were happening. And then within a year, we had civil unrest, we had COVID, new president, new chancellor, and you're like, whoa, what just happened? So it's been a crazy time. And yet, we've had great successes. We won the Directors Cup last year, and we're getting better in everything we're doing. But part of it is we were our own worst enemy as an institution. We tend to eat each other when we get rolling. That's the great thing about the University of Texas. The expectations are so high.
How do you manage those then? Because a lot of so much focus, you are TCU first, and obviously there's a huge emphasis on football there, and baseball and basketball, which are sports that we really cover here on our show. But at Texas, football is, king, queen, and the prince and princess a lot of the times. But so many of our other sports are so dominant. Swimming and diving, women's volleyball is tops. Women's basketball was excellent this year. How do you kind of have those candid conversations and manage expectations from your end and say, wait a second, I know we have to get the football and basketball programs back to that place, but our other programs are also, really dominant, and kind of have people see, both sides of the coin?
Well, just look at what I just described. And when I got here, I remember I went to we take all of our head coaches to a retreat every year. And the first thing when I got here, guys, we need to go get together and just talk about what it means to be a coach at the University of Texas. And there's a sign that says, the winning tradition of the University of Texas shall not be entrusted to the timid nor the weak. That tells you what it means to be a Longhorn, that there's a burden to go to school here, that when you come here, the expectations are so high. And during that retreat, Eddie Reese stands up and says, you know what, boy, our heart and soul was gone. We lost DeLoss, we lost Mac, we lost Ricky Barnes, and we lost Augie. 3 of those were let go. And that was a hard thing for us to do. And then all of a sudden we have turbines of 2 new ADs, 3 new presidents, chancellors. And by the time I got here, I was just trying to figure this out. So one of the things you're looking at is we just get together. So we have a monthly head coaches meeting. We have an all-staff meeting every 6 weeks. We try to really focus on what I would refer to as what it means to be a Longhorn, our culture, who we are, how we embrace expectations. And one of those things is I have 2 revenue sources. I tell our coaches all the time, we need football and men's basketball to be great because the 18 of our 20 sports, 18 accentuate the brand. And we need them to accentuate the brand, but we need 2 to generate all that revenue for this great accentuation of brand. So we have open dialogue. I mean, we're going to pay you, we're going to support you, we're going to love you, but let me help you out. We got to make sure football and men's basketball are rolling the right way for us to live and breathe in where we're at. Mm-hmm. During COVID, I lost $80 million. We didn't take a dime from the institution. We figured out a way to make it work, but we had tough decisions. We had layoffs. We had to do furloughs. We had to do tough calls and decisions to put us in a position now where we can reap the benefits of that. And it was tough. And civil unrest here was really tough on all of us. I mean, Quan and I had many, many conversations about what it meant to be a Longhorn. We were dealing with these real front issues with the eyes and what the history was and what we were doing, how we embrace ourselves. No one else had those but us. They're magnified at our place because it is Texas. And you know who wears the brunt of it? 18 to 22-year-old kids. Yeah, they wear the brunt of it.
Well, and for the positive and the negative too, because we kind of, speaking of, the student athletes, the whole NIL space has been the wild, wild west. We've had so many conversations. I mean, we could talk about it on our show. We could just do a whole show on it, every show, to be honest. And every, the rumors you hear, the whole Jordan Addison situation, he got a house, he got a car, his whole family got a private island, like all the different things you hear coming out from NIL. On one hand, you want the student athletes to get what they deserve because they are giving everything they have for the university. But on the other hand, it's a lot to manage and it's a lot to say because there are no rules. It's the first year. We saw Saban and Jimbo get after it with one another. So what are some exciting things for you there, but also maybe some challenges and maybe some changes you'd want to see in the NIL space?
Well, I take the opposite direction. Right now, there's $1.7 trillion in student loan debt. Only 30% of the United States. Yeah. But Nick, only 32% of the United States population has a college degree. $1.7 trillion in debt. And they're saying, hey, can you wipe the debt off only the 30% that have a college degree? I want you to think through that. 70% of America does not have a college degree. 30% do, and they're asking to wipe that debt away. Being a student athlete is a complete privilege. It's not a right. So I come from a different perspective. I think that, man, gosh, when I signed my letter of intent and when Quan signed the letter of intent, it said, for your scholarship, for your free ride, we are going to give you, we're going to use your name, image, likeness to promote your product. It's a poster. It's just saying, here's what it means to be an athlete because only 2% of us go pro. So I firmly believe in the model of college athletics. Yet I know times have changed. I know the economics of it, but it was never meant to be, let me buy you these things to be. It was supposed to be, what does Quan earn as himself as name, image, and likeness? And if you look at the NFL today, there's 2,500 football players. Only 300 have true name, image, likeness deals. 300. So what are we talking about? It should be truly about your name, image, and likeness. So when the three of you are living on the West Coast and you wake up every day and watch TV, how many have commercials every day in LA? Truly.
It's a lot of Damian Lillard lately because he's not been playing in the playoffs, so he's had time to shoot.
The Modelo commercial. Think about how many people. Does LeBron? Think about who's really making in your area. You have all those pro franchises out there. Who's really making NIL money? Crickets.
Football season, too much Baker Mayfield. That's what I'll say.
Yeah,
that's
there's a one-off.
Too busy doing
Alex,
commercials.
Alex, there's a one-off in Baker. But what I'm getting at, just think through where you're at. You are in Tinseltown.
Right.
So I tell you, this is the Wild West. It makes no sense to me. And I understand, believe what you're saying, that we ought to have some type of economics. I do. But where in the hell has we lost the value of education? And guys, I mean, Quan knows I grew up in a children's home. Sport to me is my incredible out. I love the fact that, guess what? But to sit there and say, hey, 70% of America forgive that debt. What are we talking about? And that a kid goes to college, they make $1 million more than a kid that never went to college over a lifetime. It's a privilege, not a right. And you took that privilege, and you may have borrowed money, or you may be a student athlete, doesn't ever, but here's what we're giving you. So that's where I come from historically. I understand name, image, likeness, but it should be what Quan earns as himself, not what is going around, the noise around it today. And a perfect example for us is Bijan. Bijan has a lot of NIL. They gave him a Lambo, man, because they want to attach him with his brand. He's courtside at the Dallas Mavericks, rubbing elbows with whoever, the fellow from Canada, what's his name? Drake. I mean, hot dang. I mean, if it was me, if it was me, it'd be hanging out with Snoop. I mean, what is going on? It's beautiful. First of all, Snoop would want to hang out with me, but I would love to hang out with Snoop.
Yeah. I like hang out with Snoop too.
Just a night, by the way.
You don't need a whole week. You don't need a weekend. You don't even need a holiday.
Just a night.
I don't handle a whole week with Snoop.
It'd be you, Ricky Williams, that happen. Snoop. It'd be you, Ricky Williams, and Snoop.
A little gin and juice and some other stuff. What the hell are we talking about?
Puff pass.
I think you hit the nail on the head, though. It's that your point's great, and we obviously saw Saban and Jimbo battle back and forth, saying A&M quote unquote bought their players, and I have to agree with you. Like, they should be making money off their name. Have you guys been working as a university, then been helping with like local brands, maybe like Torchy's Tacos? We on our show, we're pitching around the pan. I told you I was going to get the. Yeah, sorry.
University cannot help with that. Per the rules right now, it's a separate deal. It's the different things they do outside of it. The university certainly has to pay attention because they are their student athletes, but they're not. They can't leverage or push or be involved with the name. And again, there's a lot of gray, there's not a lot of teeth to a lot of that stuff, but no well, CDC, you don't say a word on that one. I got you.
No, but let me tell you about that. But here's a funny story. Think about the poster that came out last week from SMU where they showed the gold Trans Am that Eric Dickerson had. They left A&M and showed up at SMU. Yeah. And here's the gold Trans Am and said, "See you about town." And I'm like, what are we talking about? They got the death penalty. I mean, it's so crazy.
They're flaunting that illegal money.
And the problem is I grew up during that whole era.
Yeah.
So I'm like, none of it is it's just I got to close the door. Hold on.
I was ready to pitch you my pancake idea. Q.
Oh God! No.
You know I want that idea, man.
No.
Well, you mentioned the emphasis on education, especially your personal connection with that. Have you had those conversations with all the different coaches and how they approach communicating with the student athletes that are here at the University of Texas?
Alex, we have a great program. It's called Leverage, and it's called our Forever Texas program. One of the things that we want to make sure is that each and every one of our graduates have the same love that you have for your institution. It's not a 4-year decision. It's a lifetime decision when you go to school. And we feel when you come to the University of Texas, when you get that degree, it's a lifetime decision of contacts and who you're with and how you make these relationships go forever. That's what can get lost is, hey, nope, you come here, it's just a contract, or you come here. That's what's all the noise is. Really, the noise should be, how do I strengthen my relationship? And by the way, I understand and embrace NIL. I do. I just don't like the way it's collectively going right now, because it should be about your own brand and how an institution can enhance your brand moving forward. But we're a long ways away from putting the genie back in the bottle. But part of that is you have the NFL doesn't have a minor league. So right. What happens? They come from college. So all of a sudden you don't have a minor league for men's for basketball. You don't really have a minor league for baseball. You do with baseball, but they're down a 10-round draft. So if the professional sports had drafts out of high school, it'd be a little bit different model too, because they're looking at this as and then we put ourselves, we got television contracts, we got economics that we pay. By the way, we're here because of ourselves. And one of the things, problem with the NC2A, there's 32 conferences, there's 1,300 members that make up the NC2A. You're not governor of the University of Texas. you're governing to UC Santa Barbara, where I went to school. There's more of them than they are Texas. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
So you have to try to level the playing field, and the schools that are our ilk and our brand are like, time out. We got to, we're different, and we've governed to not be different, to try to create competitive balance. But at the same time, we've created problems that were why we're here today.
Right. Well, that also brings me to a point where, at what point do you start regulating how much programs can give to players? Because it's creating an imbalance for some teams that don't have the biggest name in the world. I mean, yeah, we're sitting here with Texas, right? I mean, we feel good about it, but there's only a few of us.
Well, we can't give anything to players, as Quan said. That's all. It's really truly your own name and likeness. We're not involved in that. Our state rules don't allow us to be involved. What we do is educate. Here's taxes. Here's financial planning. Here's how you accentuate your brand. Here's what we do with social media, influencers, right? We do all those type of things, but there's really not we're not securing that opportunity for that young people. We're not in that business of securing those deals.
And I got a comment about that, Nick. The truth of the matter is, yes, I don't know how you ever regulate it, because again, it's detached from the school. So that's a whole other deal. But I do have this devil's advocate perspective. Is you say, oh, you have a disadvantage. What's the last small school that's won a national championship? I know the last one that got there, in my opinion, was Oregon. Oregon's a smaller school, has a lot of field night money, but it's a smaller school, and Ohio State beat the brakes off of them. And so, and I'm gonna tell you, bigger than all the actual game, I went to Jerry's World. Coach Brown was in the booth, so I got to sit with Coach Brown in the suite. And TV did a phenomenal job, because there was 90,000 Ohio State fans and there was 10,000 Oregon, including the band. And so I do get what you mean from that standpoint, but it's a thing that don't get talked about a lot, but it's a blue blood sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the football, the revenue generating one is
100%.
Basketball, you see a little more parity, because you have the smaller schools. Gonzaga's not a big school, but they're always in the mix. So basketball is a different beast. But football, it's hard to equate NIL to big school, small school doing their thing, because big schools, per blue bloods and stuff like that, the ones that have the most revenue consistently, they're kind of in the mix every year anyway. And especially with this so-called 4-team playoff that we're working with, I think the best way to get the small schools a chance is not going to be NIL. It's going to be expanded to a 12-team playoff. But that's another conversation later.
Right.
Yeah. See, what do you think about the expansion of the playoffs for that?
I think like anything, it's we started out with the bowl game. In 1983, up until 1983, college football belonged to the NC2A, and they broke away in '83. In fact, Georgia and the president of Georgia and the president of Oklahoma sued the NC2A to create more opportunities for television. And then that time is when the advent of conferences really took over in terms of them generating their television contracts for conferences. So you remember that the college football does not belong to the NC2A. Right. They really govern academic compliance and compliance rules and academic rules, but they don't oversee the television contract. That's run by conferences. So the NC2A is solely governed financially by the NC2A basketball tournament. That's the entire finances. That helps run not only the NC2A, but all the other championships, but all the other leagues get a portion of it. From my budget, only $2 million comes from the NC2A. The rest of it comes through the ticket revenue, subsidy revenue, or our conference revenue is roughly around $40 million. So when you look at expansion of the playoff, the reality is a 14 playoff. Do we go to 6? Do you go to 8 to 12? I'm a big fan of 12 because you start to look at bowl games today. You have 70 bowl games. You just fall off, and I mean, let me back up.
You don't even have to have a winning season.
The goal is you should have a bowl game. We used to be at 6 wins when you had a 10 game schedule, right? And then you could work your way through. We have so many bowl games going through, and those things are fun for your fans. They're not necessarily money makers. They actually lose money in terms of how the bowl games are paid out. When I was at Rice, my first AD job, I was really fired up to go to a bowl game, first time in 50 years. They sent me $325,000 worth of tickets and said, "My son, whatever you sell, you keep." That was my bowl payout.
Times have changed.
That was in 2006.
And how many did you sell?
Oh, we sold all 325.
Attaboy.
There you go.
But
Can
my
sell
point-
ice to an
Hey,
sell
before
ice
he
to an
go on, he can
Eskimo.
sell ice to an
That was my
Eskimo.
point. That was my point. But that's what they gave us. They gave me a bag of tickets. Good luck. That was our payout for the RNHL Carrier Bowl in New Orleans. I just got a bag of tickets. And I'm like, really? By the way, I had to have my expenses. I had to take the team over, hotel. Everything came out of that 325. I mean, I was cutting deals left and right to make it work.
They're like, where's CDC? He's out scalping at the corner. I got 3 more for 400.
We ate at mother's food for 3 straight days. Our kids, like, they were tired of mother's. Baby, we ate the crap out of that.
Times
Poor
have
boy sandwich
changed.
every day.
That actually takes me into a question. We're going to move on to all the logistics of times change too. You're doing a lot of stuff. You got Moody, man. I've been to a couple of concerts there, and it is insane. I was a little sentimental with the Irwin Center. I was like, man, you know, that's what I went to as a student. I love you, Irwin, but the Moody is the real freaking deal. I've moved on from that. You got Bevo Boulevard, you got concerts, all of that, man. How's that been, just developing that? Because I can say this, and I get crap from it, but I'm real about it. We struggle a little bit at home field advantage back in the day, but now you've been a part of, and I give you crap about a lot of this, so you know that. But now we've created some fun and some things going on, and some buzz about what's going on campus. So how's that been? Just kind of being a part of creating that, and really your perspective on how it's going.
Well, I think part of that is I'm asking you all to just spend your discretionary income at the University of Texas, and that's a hard thing to do because you're asking you that you don't have to buy a football ticket. You don't have to spend your weekends with us. You buy water, food, that's important in your house. So when you're spending your discretionary income on us, we got to make it a full day's event. I had the pleasure of watching Texas from afar. As good as Quan was in here when they were there, it was different. They were rolling, but you still had, you know, the previous administration took away the tax deduction. So you used to be able to write off 80% of your tax deductible gift. It's no longer tax deductible. So it's truly an entertainment spend. Well, if you're going to ask someone to spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year with you, what are you doing to create value in that spend? So this is where we had to really look at it and say, the football game is truly important. It is. That's why we're here. But you're asking people to spend a full 8 hours, 10 hours with us. And we want them to come back, you know, when they leave the game, win, lose, or draw, and to, that was a hell of a time. I'll be back next Saturday. You know what I mean?
Dude, I will give you this.
Showtime Longhorns.
And we've talked a lot, and I give you a lot of crap
Showtime
about
Longhorns, right?
Bevo Boulevard and all that, but I think it finally clicked. Hell, as much as we've argued about this, you never told me that piece of it. Because that's in my day job, and I know you know what I do over there at UT and all that stuff, but my day job, we say exactly what you say all the time. We're like, listen, if we all do the same thing, what are you getting extra from a service, from all these different pieces? So kudos to you. That just finally clicked in my head. And I do respect the hell out of that perspective. And I do know one of our colleagues said he just got his Moody tickets today. He said, you know, everybody's signing up and they're fighting about what's going on. So nice.
Yeah.
Good job well done.
Part of that, you just look at any business you're in, right? Especially if you're running a business based on people's passion.
Mhm.
Rational people become irrational when it comes to passion. Every one of you all think about when you fell in love, you did some dumbass things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My wife reminds me all the time, you used to do this, this, and this. Honey, that was before you and I.
It doesn't get more passionate than
It
Longhorn.
doesn't get any more passionate than what it was. But so now with losing your deduction, people coming on campus, I think the key component for us too, and I mean this in serious, we finally had alignment for the first time in a long time. We got an unbelievable, the governor's a Longhorn, right? We have a chairman of the board of trustees is a Longhorn. The speaker of the house is a Longhorn. But the key linchpin of this whole thing is Jay Hartzell. We have a president who's a Longhorn that gets it. He went to school. He's passionate about athletics. He's passionate about this institution. So everything that we're doing, when we were going through all these trials and regulations, he just goes, hey guys, what's your long-term plan? knowing that for us as of 2 years ago, think about this. They took away the deduction. We're trying to figure out how to make an event out of it. Who you play absolutely matters. Everything evolves into every move we've made is to create value for the fan.
Yeah.
So you look at the Longhorn, you look at the Longhorn City Limits, you look at Bevo Boulevard, you look at the end game, the conferences we're moving to. All of this is trying to create value for your economic dollar that you're spending with us. And this is where football and men's basketball generate all that revenue to be great in golf and to be great in tennis and to be great in every one of our sports. We need all that revenue, but we can't forget the goose. And the goose is football. And we have to reinvest in football and not be quick to make decisions. I mean, when we had to make a coaching change, we went from Mac to Charlie to Tom. I was apprehensive to make a change. I was like, gosh, dang it, we need some time here.
Yeah,
absolutely. But I understood that things were above and beyond the control of what was actually taking place in the football field. Because, in the football field, things were going okay. Not great, but we went 8 wins, 7. We went to, we won 4 bowl games in a row. There's things that are happening, but everything around it was not what we needed it to be. And we needed to settle and move in the right direction and move forward. And you can see with only 9 of the last, we have 9 players in the last 3 recruiting classes on our team. Last year, we had 54 players on our roster, scholarship kids. So we're like, what has happened? Well, all those things happened. Why we needed to make a change. And Steve and his staff, they're professional. They're doing an unbelievable job. We got to moving forward. But the goose, as you said, is football. Mm-hmm. And that's the one getting into the league allows us some time to get healthy and get ready to rock and roll. We got beard. I love our coaches across the board. But everything we've done is to create value for our fan that you'll continue to invest in us.
How do you have these?
It's our goose, but it needs to be our golden goose.
Yeah. Yes, without question.
How do you have these candid conversations then with like Sark and Beard? Because the 4 of us are like, look, you got to give Sark time. You can't be, Katy Perry, like a girl changes clothes all the time and just be like flipping the page coach after coach. But how do you kind of have both hands of the conversation in the sense of like, you guys have the time to implement your program, get your recruits in, get your players in, get your staff acclimated, but also this is the University of Texas and there are expectations and there are donors and there are rabid fan bases. We want to, entertain those rabid fan bases. So how do you kind of mediate the, hey, you have time, but also TikTok, let's get some kind of results in the buildings?
I think that is known when you come to a school like the University of Texas. It's known. There's you
don't have to say it really, I guess.
Come on, Ted. There's 6 or 7 blue bloods. It's different. Mm-hmm. It's different, and everyone knows that. My job is to give them all the tools necessary to be successful, and to shield them a little bit, sometimes to my detriment, to say, okay, I'm going to buy you some breathing room here, and I get smashed by pundits and social media. But the goal is to try to give them a little bit of a window to say, okay, I know the expectation is never to lose to a Kansas. I get it. It happens in sport. When Nick first started out, he lost to Louisiana Monroe. But our issues, no one wanted to talk about losing the amount of scholarships, players we had, the amount of injuries we had last year, and what would happen. Things are going to happen. Yeah. But when you have to say or make an excuse, you've lost the battle. So I get that. And that's why you come here, because we have all the advantages. But also, when you think about the last 10 years, man, we're here because of ourselves. We're going to have to dig ourselves out together. And one of the things we have to really work hard at is uniting the fan base. I really try to work hard at our culture. I really try, like when everyone's, why are you on social media all the time when things are going on in the stadium? It's because I want our building to know that fan's important and we got to take care of them. Because when we start to lose customers, it's going to compound it. So putting all the BBs back in the box is all of our responsibility. Yours, mine, the you all on the podcast, but everyone listening. It's our responsibility to hold each other accountable, but not to abandon ship and then point fingers.
Definitely. And I
think that's a great point too, because we talked a little bit about the NIL portion of that school out east. But they haven't won for a long time, and they sell that thing out every single year. We don't want to talk about it, but it's true. And so as a fan base, we have to try to do that. And I think to answer your question too, Josh, is I was with Sark the other day at an event, and I was with Sark and his first lady, Mrs. L'Oreal Sarkeesian. It was really cool to hear them talk about what it means to be here. I don't want to talk about what happened in the past, but I never heard them say, I want to retire a Longhorn. And those were things that Stark said. Those are things that he believed. I remember going back to his first day being here, saying the first person he called was his dad. He was like, I'm at my dream job. Those little things remind me of some Mac Brownish perspectives. Coach Brown said it all the time. He's like, this place is bigger than you. This place is bigger than me. This place is bigger than DeLoss and a lot of people involved. So it was cool to those BBs back in the box are starting to sound, not that it needs to be identical to what it was in our age, because it's a whole different world.
Oh, yeah.
But it's starting to sound very familiar to the things that are right for the University of Texas versus other places you may go to. So I think all of that matters. And Coach Beard, that man bleeds burnt orange.
Yeah.
Sark gets it. He bleeds burnt
Definitely.
orange. You know, so many coaches across the way. How the heck y'all talk my man from swimming, Coach Reese, to come back that you talked to earlier. He bleeds burnt orange and has won more than Saban and anybody ever to coach. So I think it's cool to see these people that, sure, they're great at what they do, but they're fit for what this place is. And I think we're going to start seeing the fruit from their labors soon.
Where does you mentioned a little bit CDC? Just it seems like you have like an intentionality behind pulling the curtain back a little bit, coming on a podcast like this, being so open with communicating to media at large. And I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but some of this is to detract a little bit of the heat that is on programs like, the football program, the coaches, like Beard and like Sark, just to give them the time that they need to be able to digest their roster, bring in new recruits, really put their own imprint on the team. Where did that come from? Where did that savvy for you and that intuition stem from?
Well, I think two things. One is I remember years ago when I was working at Washington State, just plugging along, and someone said, remember, it's not about the administration, it's about coaches and student athletes. Don't you ever forget that. And I remember thinking to myself, and this is a conversation I had with Dennis Erickson, Del, it's not about you going over with the suits. Remember, it's the guys working the grass every day. It's the student athletes out here. It's the coaches. That's always ingrained in me. There's always been about coaches. It's always been about student athletes, and we're around it. We're here for them. So, the greatest day is when you hire someone. The worst day is when you let go of someone, because the reality is you better hold yourself accountable for that person's failures. It's easy to say a lot, but did you do everything possible to help that coach win? So part of that is I take that really seriously. If we hire someone, we got to give them everything we can. But also where I'm so accessible is we're not curing cancer here. We're running athletics. Let's take away the mystique. Let's humanize the operation. These guys work their tail off. Their families suffer. They're doing everything they can because we only read their paycheck. They don't realize Steve gets to work in here at 6 a.m, leaves at midnight every single day. The NIL and the recruiting rules have changed. He has no chance for vacation. Beard's out there recruiting right now. They're so hard on your families that all of a sudden my job is really to make sure that we keep the main things, coaches and student athletes. So that's all. It was learned to me, ingrained in me early. And it's why we have a head coach meeting once a month. We have all staff meetings every 6 weeks. We have retreats constantly to talk about what can we do. And you can see the success of our athletic programs is the culture starting to get back to what it was. Embracing the expectations. But as you well know, an 18 and 22-year-old kid, everyone loves David. David is the greatest story in the Bible. David against Goliath. Let you know Texas can never be David.
Oh.
How do you embrace Goliath? How do you use Goliath to your advantage? Because sport inherently is a little guy taking on the big guy. At Texas, that's not the hardest thing to do. Young people have to know how to embrace Goliath and use it for your advantages. And when it gets a chink in the armor, it wobbles you. And that's where we really spend a lot of time. As Coach Beard always says, embrace the hate, damn it, Del Conte. And I'm like, We're not going to embrace the hate. We're going to embrace who we are and take advantage of who we are. But if you put kids and coaches first, everything falls in line.
You talk about getting it back to where it used to be. You talk about people blinking orange. We talk about passionate fans making this move to the SEC. There's so many different programs there that have hostile environments where you go to LSU, you go to Bama, you go to Auburn, you go to Arkansas. It's always a hostile environment. And I think we always know that when you come to Austin, it's not always that hostile environment for the away team. How do we take that back? How do we become that hostile environment for when these SEC teams come here? It's not just any old game. They're coming into foreign territory and they're going to get lit up.
Well, I think Quan played at Ohio State back in the day, right? And you look at this.
That was beyond hostile. That was just crazy.
Yeah, but you know, I mean,
but it was hostile as well.
Part of it is that you go to Ohio State, you go to LSU. Arkansas was wild this past year, but part of that too is that our own fan base is like, okay, this is who we are.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Daryl even said we're going to take the band with us. We rise above hostility, and we are Texas. This is where we got to embrace that hate. And as our fan bases get a chance to travel around and see different fan bases, they'll react differently. We're getting continually better every day. One of the things I like what we did early is we went to one continuous student section, because we used to have almost 6 different student sections within the stadium. So they're broken up everywhere. Now having one massive continuous student section, you'll have 20,000 people applying some serious heat at all times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's what's crazy about it, fellas, is right now at Texas, we're about 60% women. So we need that's also a different thing. We do more women going to college here than unlike A&M, where there can be more men than women there. We're a lot more women coming to school here. So we got to make sure that we create that environment that's hostile. They participate as a student body, but having 20,000 student body together is great. And having the band. So we moved them, we flipped them, and now they're in the north end zone coming our way. I'm excited for our student body. They're great, they're loud, but when you had 6 different sections and you didn't get a chance for them to have a collective voice, because 20,000 people yelling and screaming at the same time is fantastic. Yeah. And by the way, our women fans are so much better than our dudes, because dudes are afraid to yell. They're being too cool. Our women get in it, man.
I was gonna say, man, the biggest fan of my family is my mom, and she didn't even go to Texas. They unleash the females, dude. Let them out.
Dude, on a personal level, I like the heck out of that, because one, I've again talking about the basketball piece of it, creating a home field advantage is gonna be massive there. I'm so pumped for what they're gonna do in the Moody. But I was calling CDC to complain a little bit because I got a call about my tickets getting moved. I really like where my new tickets are. So I was like, man, what the? Hey, I'm in that section.
Typical overreaction, Quan, flaying me without having all the end results. But when you all go to a game, you're too cool for school to yell and cheer, and then your girlfriend's gone bonkers. My 2 daughters here, they go to school here. They show up in bright orange war paint. They're losing their mind for 8 hours. I think it's the greatest thing ever. So we need everyone to do.
It's always take your daughter to work day, huh?
Here it seems to be.
CDC, we have a couple quick hitters for you. We like to ask our guests some fun questions, tease everything out. You've been in Austin. Now, other than Cisco's, because I have a couple buddies who are in that Cisco's crew, and they give you a shout out because you've eaten with them once or twice, I believe. And they said that's your favorite restaurant. So other than Cisco's, what is your favorite restaurant in Austin?
You know what? It's interesting. Depends where we go. I'm going to tell you, I do like Red Ash. If I can ever get into that joint, I mean, it's like, I'm telling you, I'll call down there. It's a pain in the rear end. I love Sammy's. That's another Italian joint. I think they're both great. If I'm in the doghouse with my honey, we go straight to Jeffrey's, up there.
Not a bad place to be in. Not a bad doghouse to be in.
I mean, it all depends on the situation. But the restaurants in town are such a cool. I ate today at lunch at Shoal Creek, and it's an awesome New Orleans style food, Louisiana food. It was spectacular. So I had a poor boy today with black beans and rice. So I try to find somewhere cool all the time. I love the restaurants we have in town. Ola Mays is great. You just have a lot of cool places. But if I can get in for a special evening, I'll try to go to Red Ash or Sammy's. If I'm in the Doghouse, Jeffrey's. But hell, those things are so. Is it ATC Cocina, the new?
Yeah, ATX Cocina. That place is phenomenal too.
That place can't get in there either. It's ridiculous. So I mean, I need like a foodie pass, and then Uchiko, the sushi joint.
Oh yeah.
I mean, come on, man.
Really?
Come on, man.
You know, I got a reservation for 9 months from now because they can't even get in that joint. I mean, zero.
That's crazy.
You just, you're too nice, man. I'd call, be like, hey, do you all know who I am? I'm the AD. Y'all want to win some football games? Let me get some sushi.
Larry McGuire's, you know, he has McGuire Mormon, has all these restaurants. He's like my pal, but he'll call up and go, hey, bro, you haven't been here in a month. No dice for you.
Do you have a go-to barbecue spot?
You got to earn it, baby.
Well, you know, a go-to barbecue spot. Sammy's right down the road. I like in East Austin's awesome. The problem is, I hate to say this, my wife and 3 kids are vegetarians. So when I go home tonight, I'll be eating lentil soup. So anywhere in town that I can get some meat, I'll just straight eat it for lunch and then go home. So
I used to be a member of your family. I was a pescatarian for 2 years. I just got back on the meat train 2 weeks ago. So I'm looking forward to getting back down to Austin for some barbecue.
Hey, CDC, that's that Cali stuff, man. You see them out there? No.
Couldn't do any more lentil soup.
Austin is, go ahead.
Sorry. No, Nick, you got it, man.
No, I was gonna say Austin's the music city capital of the world, right? Have you gotten a chance to go see any shows or anything at Stubbs or ACL or maybe at the Moody?
Well, yeah, because we partnered with Live Nation. I think this is really a testament to our leadership on campus as well, whether it be President Hartzell and our chairman to go through Moody, how we did that. Really, President Hartzell lies with the idea with President Fembus, but then where it really took hold as President Hartzell, how this came about is you have this great arena that was given to the University of Texas for free. They get to manage it for 35 years. And our partners, Live Nation, which the 3 C's that founded ACL actually run Live Nation now and do all the acts. They control 90% of the acts. So it has been fun to go over. I mean, we went from Earth, Wind, and Fire to George Strait to Willie Nelson to, I mean, I got a chance to see.
Haven't seen Snoop yet, though, right?
Snoop has not been around. By the way, really not a big fan of rap music, except that Chronic album came out right when I was coming out of college. And I was like, what is this? And to tell you the truth, to be the craziest thing is that I got to Oregon State and my college, my suite mate was a guy named Gary Payton, right? And I didn't know who he was. Didn't know who I must have. Me and my college, we were roommate, 2 track guys, and right next door is a basketball guy. And he puts on Too Short. And that's my first indoctrination to rap music.
The Bay Area.
Like, I've been listening to Mamas and the Papas, you know what I mean? The Allman Brothers, pretty much just straight 70s folk music that my parents had. To Too Short, I was just completely blown away. It's like, what is this stuff? And it was pretty risque.
Blow the whistle.
Yeah.
Wait. Time out. You live with the glove?
Well, we did it 2 years. I lived at Oregon State. So my first 2 years when I got there, we got to Oregon, the dorm, and all an athletic dorm room. If you imagine, here's 2 doors. Right next to me was a guy, Gary, and we're still friends. We see each other often. We talk often. I ended up going to Santa Barbara because he knew a guy named Brian Shaw. He helped us get down to Santa Barbara. So Gary was very influential in my conversations early. You know, my other friend, Scott Sanders, his brother was on the track team at Santa Barbara. They cut the track team at Oregon State. Where I was with Gary, we're just in the dorms, but right next to each other. And we've been pals ever since. So every time he rolls into town, wherever I'm at, we hook up and get together. I'm just saying, indoctrinating into the rap music, my first album was Too Short. So I'm like, okay. I got to the Chronic, I was already in.
Snoop was Willie Nelson after hearing freaking Too Short.
Well, and then, you know, the drinks of choice back there were either Old D or St. Ives. So I was like, dude, is there any Coors Light anywhere?
It's the wrong party for you, my friend. Not a bad person to teach you some rap music, Gary Payton.
Right.
Not at all. Josh over here is a closeted Supersonics fan.
Yeah, huge closet Supersonics fan for sure. I was wearing my Supersonics out in case my Celtics lost on Saturday, and they did.
Do you have a KD Supersonics jersey?
Me?
Not yet.
Yeah.
No. I have Nick got me a sweet 3/4 hoodie from Mitchell and Ness that I rock. It's
Jack Sigma jersey.
Yeah, I do not.
All right. What was your last question, Josh? Let's knock him out so CDC.
He's got it.
Well, yeah. Last one here. CDC, we always ask everyone who is a Longhorn the same question. What's your favorite memory so far as a Longhorn? Obviously, you've been adopted. You're here to stay. So,
I mean, honestly, my favorite time is graduation. Because I get to watch these kids come in and they're just full of piss and vinegar. They don't know what they want to be. And then you get to watch them graduate. Spend 4 years with them. They become, it's like Logan, this graduating class is my class. We came in together 4 years ago. So it's pretty special to watch them and see them. So from that standpoint, I love that time. But probably just an pure athletic time. When Clemens was on that run with home runs, and I mean, he was hitting a couple bombs at A&M. I remember playing A&M here, and I'm like,
oh yeah, that was a super regional.
Just walk the guy. I mean, he's just unbelievable. Like the Sugar Bowl, but I'll probably look back at the men's tennis championship. Was really special because we had at the beginning of the year, we had Coach Center had been let go because of that whole case that was going on with the Skinner case, the academic involvement thing. We had an interim coach come in, that team banded together, and they played the defending national champion, which we had no shot of winning, and we won. Mm-hmm. That was a pretty emotional time.
Yeah.
That will stand back me, and then probably through civil unrest, I learned more about our kids. And that from a learning perspective, that was really, really great because I'll say this, our kids love the University of Texas. They actually love the Eyes of Texas in the song. They were looking at what was the differences and why are they saying this? And they were put in really tough positions to ask questions, and they were wanting answers. And how they went about it at times, I was like, boy, they're going about it a little bit differently. But to learn from them, to walk, and I'm never going to profess I'm Black. I'm never going to look and say what Quan went through in his life, but to listen to what Quan talked about, listen to what our kids talked about, and then to see him today. And this last weekend, they're singing the Eyes of Graduation. And we talked about where we were 2 years ago. CDC, we have a different perspective. We've all learned and grown. We can never forget George Floyd. Never. Because what we've been taught from that is we have so much work to do. But through their eyes, it was fun to watch, like to see him. I mean, it was hard for me because I was in the middle of getting bashed. But every day I'd go talk to him at lunch and say, tell me what you're thinking. And we're able to put the BBs back in the box. Mm-hmm. That's what's been pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I appreciate you coming on, brother. This was awesome.
You guys be great. Hook 'em.
Thank you, CDC. Catch you later. Hook 'em horns.
All right. Easy on the gin and juice, fellas.